Hi, I'm Sandra Whitehead. I'm the program director of the Sustainable Urban Planning Program. I'm going to talk to you about how to choose a capstone topic today. So one of the biggest issues that students have is figuring out what to write their capstone project on. Students should choose a capstone project or at least a topic by the time they earn 18 credit hours in the program. At this point, you'll receive an email from me saying, hey, you're about halfway finished with the program, and it's time for us to talk about choosing a capstone topic and mentor. So today I'm going to talk a little bit about how to choose a topic and give you some tools that will help you. So a lot of times I will start the conversation with students by asking them, what have you read in your classes that really excited you? What are some sessions that you've gone to at a conference or something that you've talked about, an idea with your classmates that really lit your fire, really made you go, oh, I would love to spend some time thinking about this. Because you're going to spend about a year working on your capstone, it needs to be something that you're really interested in. You know, if you don't have any ideas, look through your notes from your classwork. Talk with instructors and classmates. Do some informational interviews with people who are working in the areas that you might be interested in. And think about your topic as a question to be solved or answered or a problem to be solved. What would that look like? So according to our classical understanding of rhetoric, right, the first step of building an argument is invention, right? So thinking about how you would define your key concepts to think about your topic and how it compares to other topics or to identify its causes and effects. These are different ways that you can look at choosing a topic. Using brainstorming techniques, depending on how you learn, whether you're a graphical learner or a visual learner or the context, it might be easier for you to brainstorm with other people. So I'm going to give you some ideas about different techniques to brainstorm and discuss some of these. And you don't have to use them just as I express them. Feel free to adapt and modify them to fit your learning style and your needs. So these are some suggestions, but you have to do what works for you. Any of these strategies can be good for generating ideas in connection to your writing assignment. So even if the paper that you're writing has a set structure, as the capstone does, you still have to invent and organize your concepts and provide supporting evidence in each section. So some of these techniques can be used at different stages in the writing process. As you write, your ideas will develop and change, and that's okay. Whether you're in the middle of the draft or you're doing the major revisions, you can sometimes find yourself rethinking key elements of your paper. Sometimes that's based on the feedback of your second reader or a conversation that you had with your mentor. So these techniques I'm going to show you can help guide you. The first thing to do is to analyze the assignment. Think about, when are you going to write your capstone? When is that due? You know, if this is the semester you're writing your capstone, think about the structure of the paper. Think about what has to get done and work backwards from your deadlines. How are you going to deal with your topic? How will this capstone project contribute to your professional development goals and to your learning goals? And how will the competencies be addressed in the capstone? So reading the syllabus might sound obvious, but whenever you start with the assignment, then you can, and this applies to any paper, not just your capstone, sitting and starting with the assignment and the guidelines will sometimes provide you with some inspiration. So think about one technique that works for a lot of people is listing. So list all the possible ideas that you might write about. and as many options as possible. You might even have some sub lists or some sub ideas under each of the categories. This can also work as a graphical exercise. I like to draw in my paper, so I'll write my ideas in big, large letters, the big ideas, and then I'll write sub ideas around them. And then sometimes there's a Venn diagram where the things overlap. And give yourself a set amount of time to develop your list of ideas, because otherwise you could just spend days and days developing the list and really not come back through the process. So create a timeline. I'm going to generate ideas for 15 minutes, and then I'm going to sit and I'm going to look at each one of them. Right? You could use sticky notes. I love to use sticky notes. I've used this technique with numerous students where I say, write all of your big ideas on a sticky note and put them on a larger piece of paper. Or personally, I have a closet door that I use as my bulletin board, and I put all of my sticky notes on there. And then as new ideas come up, I rearrange the sticky notes and put them so that the ideas that go together are together. And oftentimes those sticky notes form the outline of my paper. The idea behind this strategy is to not discount things, not to say, oh, well, that's impossible, or I don't know if there's any data on that. Don't eliminate any possibilities when you're brainstorming. It doesn't matter how silly it sounds or how outlandish it might be. Write it all down, because the creativity of it is the purpose, right? To get ideas flowing. Free writing. Free writing is really useful for people who are like me that just stare at a blank screen and don't know what to write and can't get started. And so the project just becomes bigger and bigger until the deadline is looming. Don't get there. So think about sitting down for 5 or 10 minutes and just writing everything you know about your topic, or the topic you think you want to write on. And even if all you write down is, I don't know what to write, or I don't know if this is important, the physical act of writing, and I would use a pen. Some people can do it on their computer, but sometimes changing your style opens the creative doors. So consider writing with an ink pen or a pencil. I like to write with a fancy pen. It helps me feel fancy and sets the mood for writing. If you're writing about something you haven't done any research on yet, that's okay. Write down the questions that you have, the things that you want to research. You can write in full sentences or phrases, whatever works for you. And through this process, don't worry about it being wrong, or there's errors, or the logic doesn't work, or it doesn't flow. It doesn't matter yet, right? So don't reread it or revise it. Just keep writing, and write for about 10 minutes. The purpose of this is to make you feel open, right? Just to work a different part of your brain than the sitting and trying to come up with an idea. Um, it can also work to change your scenery and to come back. So thinking about this sort of free writing as the unhindered nature of the open process, right? Invisible writing is something else that I do whenever I feel stuck. It's a variation of free writing, and because I'm a touch typist, I will stare off into space and type. And I'm not thinking about what I'm typing what comes to mind. And so if you're not a writer with an ink pen and this kind of works for you, you could also dim your computer screen so you're not looking at what you're typing. But the idea is to dump all of your ideas onto the page. You've probably heard me say throw up on the page. That's literally what I mean. Just dump all the ideas out of your head onto paper. Looped free writing is a form of free writing where you do an initial round, and then you go back and you read what you've written, and then you pull out something that's really compelling. And then you use that as the starting point for your next free writing exercise. After the second round of this particular methodology, take that new text and pull that out for your third round. And keep repeating this as many times as you find it useful until you've really honed down your idea and you've got something that's succinct and legible and usable. Sometimes this is called mining because through it, it gives you a way to drill down and get to the very bedrock of the idea or the possibility of what you're looking at. Groupthink. Groupthink is a fun way to do to brainstorm and just informally talk with friends. You probably already do this without knowing that you're doing it. Sometimes creating just the idea and expressing it with your friends or with colleagues and saying, this is what I'm thinking about. Even talk to people at work. The more you talk about your ideas, the more you'll be able to refine it, articulate it, and drill it down to something that's doable. Using other people's input and feedback, and even your own, as you hear yourself talk about it, think about, well, is this a good elevator speech? Is this something that I could actually write my paper on? Read more. If you get stuck or you just feel like, oh, I just don't know enough about this, I'm really interested in this topic, but I just don't know how to drill down on it. Keep reading. Go into the citations in the paper that you're reading, drill down, read one of the papers that they cite, and keep kind of going down that rabbit hole until you just read the things that interest you about it. And pretty soon you'll start to see themes and patterns in the things you're interested in. I know it sounds like, oh, I should be doing something else besides reading random articles. This is work. This is studying. This is going towards your goals. So don't discount this as an option. You're going to have to read a lot anyway to get your capstone to a place where you're finished. Reading also helps explore what's already been done. I can't tell you how many times I've had a student come to me with a capstone idea and I say, that's really great idea. I think there are already 15 instances where this exists with different flavors, right? So it isn't that your capstone has to be completely unique, but it should not repeat things that have already been done or studies that are already out there. Capitalize on the ideas and look for the holes in the ideas that are already out there by reading more and thinking about what's out there already. Visualization techniques. I like Free Mind or Mind Mapple. Those are fun. But what I was describing earlier and just writing it on a piece of paper or drawing it on a piece of paper works as well, or on a whiteboard. You can use these, sort of thinking about how you would drill down um, on a mind map or looking at the different possibilities. So following the mind map sample could illustrate, for instance, the science paper. Uh, this is an example. Right, the different branches and connections could show how your mind might travel from one idea to the next. And note that ideas don't always appear in the final draft, and that's okay, of your paper. But using these visualization techniques can help you really figure out where you want to go with the paper. Here's an example. This is the Wisconsin lake concerns example that I was describing. And you can see here's the main idea in the middle. Here are the responses to the problem, the reactions, the effects, and then what happened afterwards. So, and this is this person's mind map of what they want to do their paper on. Note carding. Note carding can be done literally on note cards, or it can be done using sticky notes, or I've also seen people use an Excel spreadsheet for note cardings. The idea behind note carding is to take ideas that are related and stack them together. So you could do this in a spreadsheet where you have all of these ideas that you've generated and you put them in columns across and down so that you're making a matrix of your ideas. Or you could use literal note cards where each note card is about a particular thought bubble that you have. So see, another way that you could use the note cards and or your spreadsheet is by taking your reading and writing on one side of the note card or in one column of the spreadsheet all of your bibliographical information and then your notes from that particular article, so that as you start to read through these note cards or through your spreadsheet, you can sort them into the different sections of your paper, and it'll start to give you a structure or an outline. This is really useful if you already have an idea of what you're going to write about and you've already been reading. So this is a more advanced technique. Note carding can, as I said, be useful after you've got a range of possibilities. And you can also use bibliographic tools like Zotero or RefWorks or virtual sticky notes, which are also pretty cool. Grouping your cards or your sticky notes together and making them into some kind of sequential order can also sometimes help you see which things conflict and which things go together, which things you might need to explore more because you don't have enough information on them. And of course, you can always do this in something like a PowerPoint or Prezi or even in a story map. Topii questions are an Aristotelian model where you sort of argue with yourself about your topic. So Aristotle developed about 24 of these ideas for helping a person who is making an argument find persuasive levers. And Cicero provided additional advice on the kinds of questions that are useful fodder for developing arguments. So I learned about topii questions in my logic class in undergrad, and I think they're really a useful tool. So if any of the questions spark an idea, ask a follow-up question like, how is this? How do I know this? How might someone else answer this question differently? Starting with a set of research questions and then initiating these follow-ups. So thinking about questions that are tried and true methods, right, to getting to your arguments. So questions of definition, right? Depending on what you're looking at, say you want to look at how adaptive reuse impacts health outcomes. Well, making sure that you understand what is adaptive reuse and how does that impact health outcomes? What would I compare it to? What kinds of relationships are they causal? What are the consequences? What kinds of circumstances lead to these outcomes, right? These are the kinds of questions that can help you really outline your paper and drill down into your topic once you've come up with the topic. All these techniques can be used to come up with a topic. And considering your learning style, are you visual, graphical, or experiential learner, right? Experiential learner will talk it out or will do, right? Experience, right? That's what that means. Visual learner will make a graph or a chart or you know, and a graphical learner will write things down. So it just depends on whether you also are more into electronic or hard copy techniques. I've described how you could adapt these to both. And then which technique will work the best alone, with a small group, talking, thinking, and then writing, right? So do you talk to people and get ideas and then go away and think about them? Or are you a person who comes up with ideas and then talks with people, right? Think about your own needs and your own learning style before you choose a technique. And there's nothing to say that you can use just one of these. You could use all of them if you're really stumped. So we also have some resources for you in the Capstone Jump Drive, and I hope that you will avail yourself of them. Thank you so much, and I hope you enjoy other presentations in this series.